now I have an denture implant, so my enunciation is not what it used to be. But, so, bear with me. But I can comment, and, you know, it's just so many stories and so many things that is worthwhile talking about. For instance, when you talked about being excluded, at one point, I don't know whether you're familiar with the German Luftwaffe. That was the German Air Force, Luftwaffe, Luftwaffe. And so when we were being shunned and unaccepted here and there in various units, we felt a separate Air Force. And we nicknamed ourselves the Spookwaffe. I don't know whether you're not familiar with the term spook.
Oh, yeah.
But it's now it's ghost. And since we were being ignored and unrecognized and so forth, we thought that Spookwaffe was very appropriate. So, golly, I don't know, you might have some questions that might be.
There's some back there.
Mitch, I was just wondering what got you interested in flying. Did you have an experience as a young man, or what got you interested?
Not the whole, initially, through the Junior Birdmen of America. That was an organization, and I don't know at that time whether it exists anymore or not. But it was a national group that was organized to build model airplanes. And I was in, I guess, junior high or something, and we built model airplanes with balsa wood. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that stuff. And that created an interest in flying. And then I used to see flying overboard, and I was aware of Lindbergh and so forth and so on, and had a desire to fly. And many of us, and the question is asked by many audiences, and also by the Germans, German soldiers, in doing combat in Germany. You know, they try to brainwash you, the captives. Especially, why do you want to fight? Why are you over here battling for a country that doesn't even want you, that won't recognize you, which is always a hard question to answer. And we felt the loyalty, and we knew that whatever we suffered here in the U.S. was a far cry from what we would experience under the dictation of Hitler, for instance. Yes, sir.
It's hard to imagine the discrimination that existed then. Do you sense that there's still some of that around, or has it finally gone away?
Well, it's a long ways from gone away, believe me. But I can appreciate the advances and the improvements and so forth, but it's a tremendous problem around the country. And many of you are familiar with what's your word golly. I suppose it's equal rights,
Civil rights. Civil rights movement?
No, when they give you, try to give you advantages.
Affirmative action?
Affirmative action. Affirmative action, pardon me. People say, well, what you're given, you have opportunities. What do you need with affirmative action? What, you don't need any more head starts. The playing field has been leveled and so forth. And many feel that way because of certain advances. But believe me, we're a long ways from that. And and we have an argument not only in the community as a whole, the nation as a whole, but within the black citizenry. For instance, many of you are familiar with Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. Now, he has a different view, and he thinks that we have arrived, and he thinks that affirmative action is something of the past and no longer should be going through that ordeal. And there's a difference of opinion. The first lady, what's her name, was on the Supreme Court, the first lady on the Supreme Court. Sandra Day O'Connor, when she was confronted with that question, and she said, yes, affirmative action has made a great deal of improvement, but it's a long ways from completion, and she estimated maybe 20, 25 more years. Then we could do away with these things and props, so to speak, such as affirmative action.
Which airplanes did you train in, and which ones did you fly overseas? Not you personally.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Well, the group as a whole started off in primary phase. There was 3 phases of training, not only for us, but for the aviation cadets all over the country. And that was primary, upper and lower primary, upper and lower basic, and then you went from basic to advanced, and you had upper and lower advanced. And then you graduated, and then you went into combat training. But we flew the Stearman mostly in primary. The Stearman is a two-wing airplane of about 275 horsepower or something, and they used the P-219 briefly in primary phase training. But in basic training, you had what we call the BT-13. That was a high-powered, big rotary engine airplane. And then when you left the basic training, you went into advanced training, and we used the AT-6. That was Advanced Trainer 6, a smooth, nice airplane for those that were going into the single-engine fighter training. But those that were going into multi-engine training used what's called the AT-10, and that was a Beechcraft aircraft. Then when you went into combat, the very first, how they started out with the Tuskegee experiment, they called it experiment, and some people said it was designed for failure from the get-go, and it was an appeasement type of situation, politically authorized. But then we got the P-40. The P-40 was a tremendous fighter airplane that was used by General Claire Chennault in the Pacific long before we formally got into battle against the Japanese when they were fighting over in China and crossing the Himalayas there. That was the P-40, and it went from P-40 to P-39, P-39 to P-47, P-47, and finally into what we call the Cadillac of airplanes, the P-51.
There you go.
Mustang, which we produce here in the United States, in California. And, so, yeah.